Welcome to the Storytellers Campfire radio shows, where we share knowledge, experiences, and pass stories from one generation to the next at our global campfire. We have a nice warm campfire going in the background to warm us up a bit, and we hope you enjoy the show.
And welcome to Storytellers Campfire. This is Lady Selah SuJuris hosting for our Poetry Wheel segment. Tonight we are featuring one of the poems out of Mountain Interval. Now, this was a publication that was printed back in 1916, and then it was re-released in 1920. This was a poetry collection written by Robert Frost, and tonight we'll be featuring the-road-nottaken. But before we get to our feature presentation, just a reminder to our listeners that our website has changed. If you'll notice, our listeners will go to storytellerscampfire.org, click on the show page. All the shows are now on one page. What's really nice about this is that it shortened up the menu, and it has room now on there to see the videos and new pictures that we feature for our authors and guests. But on the show page, if you just simply click on the icons next to each of the shows, you'll be able to see all the information for each show. We're going to take a brief commercial break, and then we'll be right back for our feature presentation.
Hello?
Lisa, it's Janet.
What's wrong?
Oh, this is the bridesmaids' dresses for Lindsay's wedding.
Oh, no. Tell me they're not fuchsia.
Oh, they're not fuchsia.
Then what? Oh, they're gaudy, aren't they? All ruffles and lace. Great. We'll look like a chorus line.
No. They're really quite simple. It's the material I'm most concerned about.
Oh, I knew it. I specifically said no chiffon. I mean, it's so passé. I just don't think...
It's not chiffon.
Then what?
They're made out of old yellow pages.
What? I didn't catch that. It sounded like you said they're made out of old yellow pages.
Yep, I'm afraid you heard right. It's got something to do with recycling and good karma on her wedding day.
Oh, that's special. I'm not going to know whether a guy's checking me out or just looking for the number of a good mechanic.
Funny, very funny.
There's a better way to recycle your outdated Dex phone books. Find out just how easy we've made it in your neighborhood. Call 1-877-2-GET-DEX or log on to dexknows.com.
Welcome back to Storytellers Campfire in Progress. This is Lady Selah SuJuris hosting for our Poetry Wheel segment. Now tonight, as I mentioned, we are featuring the-road-nottaken. This was written by Robert Lee Frost. Now, Robert Frost lived from 1874 to 1963. He was an American poet. However, he was first published in England before he was published in America. Nonetheless, he was highly regarded for his realistic depictions of rural life. Now, he was often using rural life settings from New England in the early 20th century. Now, he often did this because it allowed him to have an in-depth look at social and philosophical ideals. So he used these settings, and it worked. People absolutely were drawn to his work. He was pretty popular. He also won several awards. He won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. He also won the Congressional Gold Medal in 1960 for his poetical works, and he was also Poet Laureate of Vermont. So Robert Frost definitely had an impact when it came to artists and artistry in poetry. It wasn't just his words. There were many factors that played a part. There was times where the people that he was surrounded by and his environment really lent itself to developing his particular style. There are other poets who actually praised his work and thought very highly of it, but they were also men who had a hand in helping him develop kind of that signature, that Robert Frost signature. So I want to share tonight with our listeners The Road Not Taken. Now, this is a very interesting poem for lots of different reasons. It is a narrative. It's an autobiographical poem, and it consists of 4 stanzas: iambic, tetrameter, and it's hypermetric. Now, what that means is that normally there are 9 syllables instead of the strict 8 that are required to be a tetrameter. So this actually is a particular poem that became one of Robert Frost's most popular works. However, interestingly enough, it can also be said as one of the poems that is often misunderstood. Now, let me explain about this a little bit. Many people who have read the works have come out with analysis, summaries, analogies, and various different things of what Robert Frost was trying to say. There's a wide range, and who are we to actually know what was in a person's mind? However, there are clues in his work. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to share the poem. It's very short. It's not long at all. And then I'm going to share 3 different summaries or analysis. And then I'm going to share something with you at the end that you might find very interesting. So here we go. The Road Not Taken. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler, though long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. So as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Well-worded poetry. Now, there's various different analogies of this particular poem, so I'm going to share just a couple of different things about this. Frost's biographer, Lawrence Thompson, was cited as saying that the speaker of the poem is the one who habitually wastes energy in regretting any choice made. And belatedly, but wistfully, he sighs over the attractive alternative that he rejected. While a case could be made for the sighing being one of satisfaction, given the critical support of the regret analysis, it does seem fair to say that this poem is about the human tendency to look back and attribute blame to minor events in one's life, or to attribute more meaning to the things they may deserve. Now here is another analysis that this has got to be among the best known and most often misunderstood poems on the planet. Several generations of careless readers have turned it into a piece of hallmark, happy graduation son, sees the future type. Often this poem is memorized without ever being really read. I'm not so sure I agree with the first part of the analysis. The part about it being misunderstood is quite possible. However, this is one of the most verbally recited poems of all time. And is it possible that it's being memorized and read without really being read? It's possible. But let's continue on with some of the other thoughts and comments. One of the attractions of the poem is its archetypical dilemma. We instantly recognize, because each of us encounters many times, both literally and figuratively, paths that are in our life. Often they're described as forks in the road, and they become metaphors. A crisis may be taking place, or decisions that have to be made, and we have a choice to make. Some people often depict that choice as one is fate and one is will. However, we are free to choose, and it is this choosing that's being talked about in this poem. What many people try to determine in this poem is he talking about regret by not picking a specific path? All of us go down that memory lane at some point of time in our life and say, I wonder what things would have been like this way.